Good morning. This is a regular meeting of the Cameron County Commissioners Court. It is the 14th day of March 2013. As we do all meetings, we will start with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag and the Texas flag. And I'd like to ask the Commissioners Court to lead us in those two pledges at the appropriate time. Please rise. Thank you. Public comments?
We have a poll.
Yes, we do.
We have a poll. I have to congratulate our Latin American friend from Argentina that recently, or yesterday, became the new pope for the 1.2 billion folks in the world that are affected by that decision. And hopefully it'll help us, in what we do.
Any other public comment? Consent. Any item under consent that members of the court wish to take out and discuss separately? I've been asked to table item C.
C?
By the auditor.
There was one item, let me find it, that I need to.
I had a question on item B.
B?
Which one?
B as in boy.
Pull it out. Okay.
Y. And that was it for me.
I've got one.
L,
I'm sorry?
item L.
There was a travel I had a question on, but let me find it. Maybe you can help me. It's a travel on the engineering department.
Alex to go to California.
What item was that? I had it circled and I can't find it.
Let's see.
MM? Yeah, MM. Okay, there it is. Yeah. Just have a question on that.
Okay. Anything else? Do I hear a motion to approve consent items with the exception of the items that are pulling out to be discussed separately and item C to be tabled?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Hernandez. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Item B, consideration authorization for construction of the central jury room additions. Commissioner?
There was something in the contract that said that they would not accept the liquidated damages clause, and I think it was in their letter to us. But was that one of the requirements in our RFP for services? In the letter responding that they're accepting or wanting to do the work, at the very end, there's a line that says that they're not going to accept the liquidated damages clause.
Legal?
Murray Construction.
Yeah, this particular project, we're utilizing a cooperative purchasing network contract. Normally, the standard language that we use on contracts does include liquidated damages. This one is a small project, and so we normally take it project by project. It's a $400,000 project. The time frame is 180 days, and so we felt that that was sufficient time to do the project. But we can go back and get with the contractor if that's what the court would like for us to do.
Well, I saw that, and I didn't know if that was something that we needed to insist on having in there, or...
Yeah, normally on large projects we do, multi-million-dollar projects. Again, this one is a small project. And we also look at the track record of the contractor. They're currently working on one other project that I'm aware of for the county, and we haven't had any issues with them.
And you're comfortable if we don't have that in there?
Yeah, I would recommend that, we accept it as is unless the court, really wants us to go back and try to negotiate that.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Sanchez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item carries. Item L, consideration and approval for clothing expense of $500 for Lieutenant Investigator Rudy Delgado and $500 for Lieutenant Investigator Fred Zamorano, paid out of Fund 90, no expense to the county. Commissioner?
Is this something that we've done in the past? We have? So these are investigators in the constable's office. Do these same investigators also serve warrants and collect fees for the court? Is anybody here from Precinct 5? Yes. They also do that?
Wouldn't,
Just for clarification, this is $500 a year.
A year?
A year, not a one-time shot.
Correct.
Well, how?
Well, I'm not
we know
sure how
that
they're going to pay it out, but it's not monthly, it's annual.
and this is for the investigators because they named them investigators, or?
I can't answer that, but
Is the
Because
constable here?
I know in the past we approved, I think, for sheriff,
the sheriff, I know we have, yes.
but sheriff, part of theirs is investigative duties. The constable is to serve the papers of the court and be the bailiff, correct, Judge Gonzalez? And so, I know there's other items on the agenda where we want to force courts to do certain things within the realm. What would be the difference here?
Yeah, if the court wants to, we can table it and have the constable be here, because I can't answer that question.
Motion to table?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Hernandez, second by Commissioner Benavides to table. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Item Y, consideration approval to purchase 4 Motorola APX 6000P25 portable radios for Parks Department Beach Safety Program.
The reason I pulled this one out is, were they not part of the package that we are doing with Motorola for all our radios?
I believe they were, Commissioner. Charles, you want to?
Javier called me about this particular matter. This is, I think, for the lifeguards, which are new. We didn't have lifeguards before, but we just recently instituted that program. The Parks Department does have radios, but they don't have radios for the lifeguards. And my understanding, this is going to augment so that they can have communications with law enforcement if need arises.
So these would be purchased through that same agreement at the same price?
At the same price, yes, but these are above and beyond the
Original order amount?
order, yes, sir.
Okay. Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item carries. Item M, engineering staff travel to San Diego, Texas to attend design and installation of
San
buried
Diego,
pipe seminar.
California.
I'm sorry, San Diego, California, to attend the design and installation of buried pipe seminar.
Well, first of all, this item already occurred, according to the dates of the travel, if I see it correctly. Secondly, this makes, when I read what this seminar entails, it leads me to believe that it'd be like me going to a neurologist conference and I'm a pharmacist. Because, I don't know the county doing any pipeline laying anywhere in the county.
Joe,
The largest pipeline we do is a driveway, which we've been doing for like at least 13 years that I've been around.
you want to explain that?
Morning,
Morning.
Judge, Commissioners. As an engineer, I need 15 hours of continuing education. AEC provides that at 15 hours. I can train in any field in engineering. So my expiration date was on the 31st, so I had to get something real quick.
Yeah, but would it make sense to go to training that directly relates to storm water discharge, road construction, subdivision development, all those areas that you deal with in a normal occurrence, you know. I mean, pipeline laying is highly specialized area that mostly is used for either utilities, oil companies, exploration companies, or things of that sort.
This was I try to find anything in Texas, whatever I can find. This is the only one that I could find, and I just need my hours. I did get approved on those dates for San Antonio, so it got canceled, so I had to find whatever I could find, so.
What do you mean you didn't get approved for San Antonio?
No, I got approved to go to San Antonio,
Yep.
and then it got canceled.
The class got canceled.
The class got canceled,
So originally you were going to go to San Antonio,
yes,
but when that class got canceled, this was the only thing available?
correct.
And you paid all this out of pocket in
Correct.
advance?
Well, that being the case, I would move to approve, but I think we need to choose a little bit more wisely and more timely, so that, you know, we can do things that more specifically address the needs that the county has, not necessarily just to justify hours, you know.
Yeah, I think probably something that we need to look at and maybe bring back to the court. I mean, just as an example, I take a lot of webinars from TxDOT, Federal Highway, and they provide credits, continuing education credits. And so, you know, webinar should also be an alternative as opposed to traveling, because, you know, you get 6 hours, you know, for 2 hours of a webinar. So that might be something that we might look at in our travel policy.
Have a motion and a second. Motion by Commissioner Garza or Sanchez?
I move the motion.
Moved by Commissioner Garza, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Sanchez to approve. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. I've been asked by legal to go back to items triple F and triple G and ask that we rescind those two approvals and just table them for now. Do I hear a motion?
Triple F?
Triple F and triple G regarding elections.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Garza. On both those items, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries.
Is there a legal issue with it? They're not approved, so then we won't see them coming back? Okay.
So we rescinded them, now do we have to table them?
How did they get on the agenda?
Judge? We rescinded them, now do we have to table them?
There's no need.
Okay. All right, that's all the consent. I've been asked to move one item up regarding elections because Mr. Davis needs to get going. Consideration, possible action on approval of the realignment of certain existing county election precincts, as well as a creation of a new county election precinct to give effect to the December 4th, 2012 City of Brownsville single-member redistricting and provide for compliance under Section 42005 and 42061. Good morning.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. Before I begin on this item on precinct creation and realignment, I wanted to update the Commissioners Court. As per the contract that we had with my predecessor. Did it come undone? Excuse me, I'm trying to see if, there we go. My predecessor had a contract to complete reports to the Secretary of State in regards to the Democrat and Republican primaries, primary runoff, cost summaries and reports. Those have been done, submitted on time. The party chairs, both Democrat and Republican, have received their reimbursement checks from the Secretary of State. They will be taking out what is owed to the parties and then turning around and issuing checks to the Elections Department. As soon as today, I'm meeting with the Republican Party chair this afternoon, and we'll be working on the reimbursement. The Democratic Party chair is to follow probably the early next week. The other responsibility that my predecessor had was completing and submitting the invoices for the 5 entities that we conducted elections for last November, those being the Brownsville Independent School District, La Feria School District, Santa Maria School District, City of Harlingen.
Excuse me, Mr. Davis, what item are you discussing?
I'm only bringing up, I'm here to discuss item L.
But everything that you're talking about right now, which item?
It's not on the agenda.
I don't know that we can discuss it. Legal?
Legal?
No, if we're going to do a status report on billing or something, it ought to be a separate item.
Very well.
Sorry, I just...
Not a problem. Moving on to item L. As the commission may be aware, City of Brownsville entered and completed realignment of their single-member districts last December for their single-member districts. What they did is change a lot of the boundaries, and they ended up splitting our elections precincts in several cases. As per election code, we're not allowed, the county is not allowed to have or maintain election precincts that are split. So it was our responsibility, the election department and county's responsibility to fix those and get those completed and get them, those precincts realigned, in some cases, new precincts created. Our concerns were not to split existing districts for Justice of the Peace / Constable, existing districts for county commissioners, existing districts for state rep, state senator, and congressional. And we've achieved that. I've included images showing what we've done, and I'm willing to go through those. These are for the Brownsville area. It'll show what we've pretty much done. It's a before and after image, and it basically affects about 19 precincts either through realignment or creation. On the left, for precincts 61 and 76, you can see the colored shades are the single-member districts of Brownsville. And you can see how the red boundaries are the boundaries of our voter precincts. So you can see how their districts have now split our voter precincts. So what we did is realign the boundaries of our election precincts to conform to the city districts. It's a bit of the tail wagging the dog, but state code makes us conform to the decisions that cities make when they realign their districts. I will add that when they did this, they happened to use the same redistricting consultant that the county has used in the past. We were not, rather my office and my predecessor was not consulted when the city began deliberating their realignments with their consultant also being the county consultant. I wish we would have. I wish my department would have been. Ideally, we would have avoided some of these scenarios. I think we could have satisfied all masters by having a bit of a neater realignment that conformed at the same time to our existing election precincts that we happened to use last year in the elections.
Did we have to hire Rolando to come back and help us do this?
We have not hired the consultant. We've generated and excuse me, realign these on our own. We intend to submit these to upon Commissioner's Court approval. We intend to submit these to the Department of Justice for pre-clearance in an expedited fashion, so as to get pre-clearance before the city elections. We intend to do those on our own going forward.
Mr. Davis.
Yes, Commissioner.
Several of my voting precincts are affected, are being talked about here. Does that mean that when the county election comes, people that were used to voting, let's say, at Victoria Elementary, are they the same people that were voted the last time? Are they going to be voting there again?
Polling places will be changed for your constituents. Then I think that's what you're talking about, Victoria Elementary being a polling place, a place where they go to vote. There are instances where polling sites will be changed if, for instance, a boundary, whatever precinct Victoria is in, that boundary may have moved, just for example, Commissioner, and districted out that polling place. There is a possibility, particularly for the Democratic primary and primary runoffs, where there's so many voters, the volume of voting in that primary is so large that almost every precinct has its own polling place. Because some of these precincts in both Commissioner Hernandez and your Commissioner Benavidez' districts have been realigned, we will possibly have to look for new polling places within those precincts, or if there are none, such as schools, a public building, a park, I think churches we've used, I think Christ the King we've used for an early voting site, we'll look to combine them and to facilitate a combined polling place with enough machinery to handle what could possibly be the double volume of voting. But yes, it's possible with the decision that the city of Brownsville made that it affects your voters. It affects your voters for this May election when they're voting in the city, and it very well will affect some of your voters come primary and general elections, county elections next year.
And we don't have to have a legal review this before we submit it to DOJ? We can just submit it with the changes you made?
I have no problem, we don't have to, I have no problem legal reviewing this. They're very, there's some standards that we need to comply to as far as, you know, that they're not split by districts, and I think we've conformed to them before and we will prepare them to DOJ. If they have any recommendations, I'd be welcome to include those in our submission to the Department of Justice. I'm also using as a template Mr. Ortiz's submissions that he did late 2011, early 2012, for the redistricting that the county did early last year in their election precincts.
Mr. Davis?
Yes, Commissioner.
You told me when we talked about this that the voting precincts would not change. Our precincts would not change. Let's say... You
mean your districts, your commissioner districts?
In other words, let's say my precinct 12 gets divided between precinct 12 and now 108. The way I understood what you told me, that new part of 12 that becomes 108 because of the city alignment would still vote at precinct 12. That way we wouldn't have the confusion among the voters. Another thing, the county voting precincts are very different than the city voting precincts. They don't have near as many precincts. They consolidate massively.
You mean your polling places, the polling sites?
The polling places.
Yes, sir.
I think that's what Commissioner Benavidez was concerned about.
That's correct.
That let's say, like her precinct 5, and let's say it splits between 5 and 109 as a new number, they'll still vote at Victoria Heights because that's still part of her precinct, correct?
That's if, well, ideally, the county can decide whether we want to combine precincts so as to limit confusion on the voter, or I'd be able to present typical voting history or patterns for the old precinct and the new precinct, and if we think we're going to create a line by combining polling sites, we can investigate adding polling places to these new or realigned precincts.
The last primary we had new polling places. The primary before we had different polling places. Now if we do it again, we're going to have a third new possible voting place for the same particular residence.
It's definitely possible.
Precinct.
They're lasting effects to what the city of Brownsville did.
So I think we're actually hurting the people from voting by disenfranchising them from not being able to go back and vote where they've always voted before. They had to change once, and they're going to change again. I think it's very confusing.
The challenge is to get information, better information out there faster and early enough, because you're right, these voters have just gone through a re-education of sorts just a year ago with the new precincts, and they're going to have to go through another one. They're going to have to go through another one as soon as May for the precincts that have elections in May. I mean, there are going to be some folks coming up thinking that this precinct, they were only going to vote for a particular city commission or a commission race, and they're in fact voting for another. The confusion doesn't start in March of 2014. It starts May 2013. The city's been made aware of this. The city planning department, city secretary who's in charge of administering this election have been made aware of it. And if only they would have communicated and established a rapport with our department earlier, I think we could have headed a lot of this off. Unfortunately, it's done, and I'm trying to make my department, my staff, I implore the county commission to make the best of it.
Well, my concern is this. Every year you all send out a different card, voter registration card, right? Every 2 years, okay. Well, I get mine, I fold it, and I put it in my purse, okay? I never check to see if my precinct number has changed. And some people will go and vote where they're used to voting, and when they're told, I'm sorry, now you're gonna have to go, you know, down 10 blocks, a mile, or whatever, to go vote, I can tell you what's gonna happen. They're gonna go home. And so my concern is, how are we gonna allow these people enough time to know? I mean, just getting the card is not gonna suffice, I can tell you that. So somehow we need to address this issue.
Do you have an idea of how many people are going to be affected by this, Chris?
No, I don't. I only have an idea of the precincts. So as far as voters or registered voters, there may be two different numbers I'd have to give you. Typical voters or voters that have voted in the last, I don't know how many county, and I can get that to you, Commissioner, and to the Commission, or just you want to go with the safe number of total registered voters affected, I could submit that number to you as well.
Well, just wondering what it would cost just to send them a separate letter notifying your precinct has changed.
Well, I should have added that upon approval by this Commissioner's Court and clearance, these voters are getting new voters cards before the city election, and the voter cards will indicate their new correct precincts on there.
Well, but
and those precincts will conform to the elections that happened in 2014.
The difference that Commissioner Benavides is talking about is you get your card in the mail, you don't look at it, you stick it in your wallet, and you know the day you go vote to go vote. If you get a separate mailing, notice your precinct, voting precinct has changed, you may pay more attention to it in advance, as opposed to on the day of election at 6:30 when you get out of work, you go to your poll to vote, and all of a sudden, no, wait, I've got to go to the other one, and it's too late.
Understood. And we can, and you know what, we will do that. We will invest the time and the resources to, whether it takes new mailings, better outreach on the website, via social media, PSAs even. That's something our office is exploring to get this information.
Do we have a choice as to what we can do here? I mean, we don't have a choice, right?
I defer to legal. My understanding is that we don't. We need to fix or clean up these precincts. They can't go on existing split like this.
Is legal? I mean, do we have a choice, Bruce?
We would have had a choice if we had been.
No. Do we have a choice today as to what we can do?
Right this moment, no.
Okay. You know, I think this is another great example of the city of Brownsville's, you know, futuristic thinking and planning in coordinating with Cameron County on anything.
You mean lack of futuristic?
No, I think it's a great example.
Of lack of futuristic planning.
No, that's what he means.
Planning, okay? I'm trying to be sarcastic, Judge, you know.
I caught that,
Because
Commissioner.
again, you know, simple things through one meeting can make things so much easier for all the entities. And most importantly, for those people that Commissioner Avias thinks might be disenfranchised in their ability to vote. And, you know, we need to, I don't think we need to do anything. I think that, you know, the message needs to be that, you know, they can be proper planning. It can be easily done. You know, I think that we need to give our consultant that has been used for the last 13 years that I've been here, which is Mr. Rios, a message. He's the only one that can be our messenger, in my opinion. And the message needs to be, if you represent both entities, you should take into consideration the impact that it has on the one that's been paying your bill for the last 13 years.
That would have been ideal, yes.
Okay, so I would recommend, and I move to approve, but I recommend that we send Mr. Rios a message and say a letter as part of the motion, saying that in the future, if he is aware and represents an entity within Cameron County, that he should make efforts to include us in discussions as the elections office. So,
Okay, there's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second discussion.
Go ahead.
Let me bring Arnold up real quick, because I just checked with him. There is some legislation that is not going to fix this, but hopefully it's going to make the voting process a little bit easier in a couple of years.
Right,
Arnold?
there's several bills out there regarding elections, and there's a couple of them out there. I think Dan Patrick has one, and a few other folks from Harris County have others that create super precincts. And Chris and I have talked about this, where you can go to any polling place within the county and vote. So if you live in Brownsville, you're in Harlingen for whatever reason.
Any of the voting places that are super precincts,
No.
right?
The way it'll work is that if you live in Brownsville, you can be in Harlingen and cast your vote for your precinct. It should be able to take it there.
At any precinct?
It's an all or nothing proposition.
Okay.
We convert all our polling places for voting centers or super precincts. It would address Commissioner Benavidez' concern. I'm sure what Mr. Flores is going to get to, though, it requires considerable financial planning and investment. We have to become an electronic voting predominantly county, such as Hidalgo is, go through a couple of cycles to get used to that, and then apply for super precincts or voting centers where anyone, just like they can on early voting, anyone can vote anywhere in the county. On election day, anyone can vote anywhere in the county. But it's all or nothing. We can't designate some precincts as super precinct and others just regular. We have to just dive in.
All of them?
Yes, sir.
Although it is a significant cost to the county, but it would definitely raise the issue that you brought up before. You might get your results before 5 a.m. On election day, election night. It would be quicker, easier.
But I think they're already doing that in some counties. I think Amarillo
Some counties have them.
is doing it. So I don't know if does it require a statute, or does it just require the investment?
When you make it mandatory that we go to this, then it does require a change in the statute. And then that's where some of this is moving forward.
So right now, if we had all the electronic equipment in place, we could do what they're doing, where you could vote anywhere.
Upon application, you'd have to apply for the Secretary of State to designate you. Yes.
Without changing a statute, though.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Yeah, because I know I've spoken to the commissioner up in Amarillo, and they did it, and she said it was very successful. But it takes a big investment, and I've talked to Mr. Davis about that.
Yeah, it's not cheap at all to do this. The machines are and they're set. From my understanding, they're set forth by the Secretary of State's office what machines we can use and the systems we can use. So we're limited on that end. But yeah, it is a substantial amount of money.
I want to make one comment. I completely agree with Commissioner Garza's assessment, but I would like to add that for the next cycle, if we're not ready for the super voting or super polling places, that if you create new precincts within current precincts, which is what you're doing, to comply with the city's new realignment, that the voting site remain the same for those precincts, those county precincts.
Okay.
Can that be done?
Okay.
I think it's very important because let's not confuse them anymore. It's already a mess.
We can do that. If we were to do that kind of a thing we put that in place, it would affect City of Brownsville Commission elections. We'd be trading the confusion from the confusion of the county voter in March and May to the voter in the city commission election that'll be showing up to a precinct, and it can be done. I'm just saying it won't be. There'll be some confusion where the city they'll have to go, and there'll be multiple ballots that both the poll worker at the site will have to know the right one to give to the voter, and the voter will have to accept this is your right one.
They've done that in the past.
That's correct.
On the districts, that happens all the time. You told me, at Precinct 4, which is Olmito, Rancho Viejo area, that you had to break that up because of the city boundaries.
That's correct.
You created a new precinct a new voting precinct in Precinct 2 with 29 voters. Do you think it really justified to put a voting site plus
Absolutely
all the
not.
workers for 29 people? That's a big cost to the county.
Absolutely not.
That's why I'm saying if they can still continue to vote in Precinct 4, it would. They may be in Precinct 1 or whatever you've created for them, but they're still voting in Precinct 4. And we've satisfied the city requirement and the county requirement.
Yes. Yes, that's
And
correct.
if there's any cost, I think it should be borne by the city.
That's a great point.
They were the ones that caused this problem.
Mr. Hodge and I actually asked the Secretary of State in our teleconference how much of the cost of this work and extra effort, even the new voter cards, can we pass on to the city? The answer was not much. Not much that we can. If there were extra ballots or a different style of ballot that we had to order for a polling place, that cost we could pass on to the city. But the extra cost of printing out new voter cards, we have to eat it, absorb it. And Mr. Hodge, I'll
Yeah,
defer to you. But that's,
the administrative cost, in other
Yes, sir.
words,
Yes, sir.
the training, the education of the staff, and setting all this stuff up, the memos to make sure it all works right, all that's ours.
Secretary of State fully recognized, legal department there fully recognized the city was wagging, they were the tail that was wagging this dog. And because of the actions that they did, we had to clean up.
Let me just say one quick thing here. As much trouble as has been caused by this, and given Commissioner Garza's, comments about our friend Mr. Rios, he is still our consultant, and I would be reluctant to suggest that you guys go bare without a consultant to the DOJ. I would suggest that you get hold of Mr. Rios, explain what it is that you got, that you've done, because I haven't analyzed it in any detail, and he's familiar with what happened, and see if he won't get this off expeditiously and get DOJ approval, if at all possible, before the May election.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Why do we want to involve him? If it's not legal, I guarantee you the Department of Justice is going to let you know, right?
That's the idea, yes, sir.
So I don't think we need to pay any more money than we have to.
Well, I think he's on a consulting contract right now, okay? I mean, if you want to run the risk of not having a consultant that would, make sure that what Chris has done is likely to work and expeditiously get it to the DOJ. I mean, in the past, Mr. Rios has been very effective, and I've relied on him myself on many occasions. And so, notwithstanding the circumstances of this change, he could be of help, is all I'm suggesting. Whatever you want to do, it's up to you.
Do you have what you're going to send in ready?
We have the template ready. We do not have the actual document ready. I wanted to wait and make sure that every concern was addressed here. It's a matter of just copying it over, providing the maps, that essentially what we have here.
Do you feel you need to run it through a legal individual to make sure that you haven't done anything illegal?
I'm not sure I have the experience to determine whether what I'm going to submit is perfect or not. I do know that what Roger submitted was accepted by the DOJ, and that involves significant precinct realignment. These are fewer precincts with less significant realignment. Other than that, I don't know how to answer that question, Commissioner. There are other redistricting consultants out there, but again, if we have an existing contract.
I just have a problem with someone creating work for themselves, in doing this. And I, so far, believe that you've done your duties well. I trust in what you're doing, and I think you ought to just send it in, what you produce.
What happens if you send it in and they say, no, this doesn't work? We just have to work on it some more?
I don't know. I don't know what happens.
I mean, there are certain requirements, on populations. You can't change how many of a race you have in one precinct over another, all these kind of things, So you should be aware of whether the areas that are being impacted are, going to be racially profiling or racially discriminating a precinct or another. Do you see any of that?
Racially, no, because the predominance of Hispanics here. I mean, in the 90%, that's not going to be a concern, I think.
Because that's usually the main thing that is looked at.
That's correct. That's correct. I will add, in the future, the whole Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act is being under review, up for Supreme Court review. This may, in a couple of years, be moot, where we won't have to jump through the hoop or the hurdle of seeking pre-clearance, any entities in Texas and some of the other states. But that's still something before the Supreme Court, and yet to be decided or even deliberated on.
Just a question. What would the consequence be if you submitted this and it got rejected?
I'm not sure. Possibly, we'd continue on with it. The immediate consequences would affect the city of Brownsville's elections.
Their election. In other words, they could basically temporarily stop it
That's correct. They
right?
could.
So that is the worst-case scenario. I mean, that is the consequence.
I don't know if it would affect the contract that I'd enter into if essentially if we're not allowed to proceed in conducting the elections for them and carry on these the election services for them, if the ball would be automatically thrown back in their court. Again, I defer to legal on what the ramifications of that would be if they have to take on their own elections now.
Well, they created it. I mean,
that's correct. But I just don't know. Or we'd have to conduct elections, keeping the precincts, the election precincts as they are with 12, 13 split precincts, and voters are showing up, and we have trained our poll workers and really made them conscious of the fact that we're going to have multiple ballots at one polling place. And some of your voters from Precinct 72 are going to get this ballot for this commission race, and some of them from Precinct 2 are going to get this ballot. And we need to make sure, you know, and I can already foresee the issues, particularly if they're close races, and if voters are voting for the wrong candidate in election contests.
Mr. Davis, I don't see how it could possibly be rejected by the DOJ if they've already accepted the city realignment, and all we've done is laid our map directly over it with a couple of new cuts, but within the same parameters.
They've already approved it.
They've approved a single-member district realignment. That's correct. So they have something to layer onto our precincts.
By their consultant before you got it.
That's right.
Which is the same consultant that we use. So
That's
why
true.
should we pay him twice for the same thing? Makes no sense.
All right,
Refer it to him.
so the motion is what?
The motion is to approve the plan as presented with a letter to Mr. Rios saying that in the future that he should hopefully include us in discussions, whether it be in any municipality that has this situation. This is not the first time we've encountered this. We've gone through it in the Harlingen area also.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure it won't be the last.
Are you adding to, and for Mr. Davis to submit it?
And submit it, yeah,
To the
definitely.
DOJ.
Right,
well.
so the motion is to have him submit it to the Department of Justice, correct?
Right.
And as a byproduct,
Well, to approve the realignment.
yeah,
and
to
submit
approve,
it
right, to approve that realignment, and then as a byproduct, write a letter.
to our consultant.
Right.
Saying that it would be nice in the future if he'd include us in the meeting so that we'd be at the same page with it.
Very well.
All right, okay. Do I have a motion and a second?
You do?
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. If I may, let me go back to item L, the one that was tabled regarding the clothing expense. We have a representative here of the constable here. Do I hear a motion to reopen?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Sanchez to reopen. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Commissioner Benavides had a question regarding the clothing allowance. Commissioner, you want to?
Yes, I was questioning the fact that, you know, has this been done in the past? And do you as investigators also serve warrants and collect fees for the JP offices?
Judge, Commissioners, yes, we have. In the past, we have submitted in the requests, and they have been approved in the past. The investigators, yes, they do go out. They'll make, most of the time, our investigator makes phone calls out of the office. He's there in the office. If warrants come in, they'll take care of whatever issues. They don't spend as much time as the deputies out in the field. Of course, their objective is to work out of the office and talk to the people that come in and take their statements, whatever they need to.
Who's your investigator in the Harlingen office?
We have Rudy Delgado, and the other item or the other gentleman that we submitted in for is Investigator Zamorano. He's helped us out in some cases, and that's why the constable has approved or has requested that we help him out with his clothing allowance too. And this is out of our Fund 900, so this is of course at no cost to
the county.
The county. It's all forfeiture money.
So then I guess any time that any other constable comes before us, we will be approving the same?
If they have forfeiture monies.
If they have forfeiture monies, yes.
And investigators.
And,
And a lot of the constables don't have investigators.
Who has investigators? Which of the constable's offices?
Just, I believe, that I know of course, it'll be our department, precinct 4, precinct 3. I don't know about precinct 1. They just recently started again, and I'm not too sure on precinct 2.
How many cases do the investigators submit on an annual basis?
That one I'm not too sure, but there was quite a few submitted in last year. If I was to throw a number, probably about at least 50, 60 cases that were submitted in.
Any other questions?
No.
Do I hear a motion to approve? I move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Garza, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Budget amendments? Line item transfers under salary schedules.
Judge, Commissioners, excuse me. You have the budget amendments placed in front of you. The first one is for the City of Brownsville. It's titled City of Brownsville Interlocal. The other one is for the Colonia Self-Help Project. And you have one for the DA's office for $30,000 for equipment. The following pages are line item transfers. You have the Sheriff's Department, the Treasurer, M&O, Divert Court, the VAWA, Constable, Precinct 5, Drug Forfeiture, Sheriff's DOT Forfeiture, the Laredo Intel, the Director's Admin, and Highland Grants, and you've got one for Parks as well.
All within budgets?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion. Do I hear a motion?
Yeah.
Moved by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Hernandez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Claims?
Claims are warrants number 297-115 through 297-653, warrants number 297-568 through, I'm sorry, that should be 297-658 through 297-697. ACH health claims for $92,081.33. Payroll dated March 15th for $1,621,620.71. I have two voids, voids number 295680 and 290257. One is for a stale date and the other one is for incorrect vendor for your approval.
Do you recommend?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Hernandez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Item carries. Please note my abstention on the affidavits I've provided. Item C, approval of minutes for the January 17th regular, special, and special meeting.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Hernandez. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Benavides to approve. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. On items D and E, we will defer those until after executive session. Item F, consideration approval of amendment to tax abatement agreement between Cameron County and La Paloma Energy.
Judge and Commissioners.
Good morning, Frank.
In December, Commissioners Court approved the abatement agreement with the La Paloma project, and we had an exhibit attached to the agreement that showed the production schedule starting in 2013, when actually the production schedule was supposed to start in 2014. That was a staff error, my error, and but I caught it as I was working on another agreement that's before us. And so I touched base with the company and asked them if they were okay with correcting the schedule, and that's all we're doing now.
Pete, I have a question.
Why would they bring it to us instead of...
Are we saying that these are going to be the values? Are we stuck with those values?
Those are the company the values proposed by the company that we agreed to, yes.
And if our appraisal district goes in and says, hey, it's worth more, we're stuck with these?
These are projected values at this point. We have to do an annual review every year. So we will check with the appraisal district to get actual. as of their January 1st rendition.
So we're not bound to these. These are just projections.
Right. That's what the company values the improvements at. But it could be more, it could be less.
This is their projection of what they anticipate.
Yeah.
As long as we're not bound to it, because if
No.
they get ahead of the game and there's value, more value.
Or
delayed.
As part of our annual evaluation, we not only check company records, but we also check with the appraisal district.
So they did not bring to you that they wanted it to start in 14?
Yeah, the agreement that we have in place
Yeah.
Starts the abatement program in 2014, but it did not match the schedule that
was attached.
The exhibit, basically?
The exhibit.
Okay. Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Sanchez to approve. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Item G, discussion and possible action regarding Cameron County's legislative agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. The list that I gave you it's the same bills that we looked at last Commissioners Court meeting. The only difference now is that they actually have bill numbers. The status of all our bills that we took care of last week they're in a file status. They haven't been, at least as of this morning, they hadn't been referred to committees yet. We are in the process of working with our legislative officials over there on possibly substitutes. I know that in the discussion that we had regarding some of these pieces of legislation, we wanted some changes made, and before those go to a committee, we'll go in and work on the language to create a committee substitute so we can address those issues and concerns that you all had last time at that time. We've been working on a few. I know Bruce and I met with a gentleman from Brazos County, I believe, yesterday regarding the Juvenile Probation Board bill that we have out there. There seems to be some questions. We went ahead and answered those and think any concerns they might have had, I think we put those to rest yesterday. We have a couple of changes on some other legislation too, and just if you all had any questions, I can field those.
Are we not working on GLO issues?
Yes, there should be the GLO issue should be in there. If it's not, it should be there. I think it's number
9.
Oh,
Number
okay.
9.
Yeah, I see it now. Okay.
The two,
Actually, 8 and 9.
the two bills put in by the tax assessor are not on the.
Right, I didn't include them in here, but I did speak with Representative Oliveira's office last week while I was there. Those bills have been filed, and they are working on them to get those pushed through.
Okay.
On item number 7 regarding the 357, the district court,
Yes, sir.
would it be a benefit for this court to suggest that they make it effective, if we're going to go this 51% family court issue, to do it effective January 1st, 2015?
Yes, I've spoken with the Senator's Chief of Staff and with Ruben Obel, also the Representative Chief of Staff, and let them know that we would want that to be within the next election cycle, 2015.
Don't we have a family court already?
Yes, sir, we do.
Why do we need another family court?
That was the issue that they brought
Let's
forward.
make it a veterans court. You know, I saw another proposal looking for a veterans court. I mean, give this court the ability to do 51% of their docket in veterans issue, veterans.
That could be something that we can take a look
I
at.
mean, I just can't see why we need another family court, you know.
Or make it 50% family, 50% veterans?
Well, and the way the statute reads now is it says it would give preference to family law cases.
Yeah, but we already have a court that does it.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so why do we need another one?
Those are the issues that brought forward by the
I
district
mean,
court judges.
The district court judges brought forth these issues, but I'm still not convinced, and I haven't seen all the numbers as to why every district judge now doesn't want to do family court to some extent in their courts. They're a you know, a broad-based court. They can handle family issues if they're brought before their courts.
Right,
And
and-
be evenly distributed between all those courts instead of designating a particular court. And I have a problem mostly because this court doesn't have a judge right now. Maybe we ought to have a bill to shut it down if we don't need it. I mean, it's gone 3 months now without December, January, February, March.
Hasn't there been a visiting judge operating?
Judge Murray's
courtroom?
been operating
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
I think right now Judge Alejandro has been assigned as visiting judge for a month. What happens, the issue with family law cases, just to give you shed a little bit of light, a family law case will tend to take a lot more time than your typical civil or criminal case, in the sense that you have 2 rounds of hearings. You have the initial temporary orders hearing where you're trying to determine, okay, temporarily who's going to get the kids, the house, property, child support. And then you got to rehash that when you get the final decree, final divorce going. So what ends up happening is, if you have a family law docket, it takes up a lot of your day, which impedes or slows the rest of your docket. And I think what the judges are trying to do by concentrating most of the family law in 2 courts is freeing up the other courts to move their dockets quicker. Because if you have a temporary orders hearing, I know last week my brother told me that he had 1 temporary orders hearing that lasted 7 hours. And that was just to take care of temporary orders on a case that are going to end up changing once they go to final hearing. So I think the concern for the family law is that you know, you need to give it enough time, and a court, by designating it family law, or majority of it, will alleviate some of the time pressures on the other courts for them to move their dockets faster. That's what I can see as an observer.
Why not make it, I think Commissioner Gatsa's point, a veterans court, why don't we split it between a veterans court and a family court? I'm not sure what a veterans court really is supposed to do.
I'll give you, I've been to San Antonio and I visited with Judge Wayne Christian. I observed his veterans court, and basically the way a veterans court works is one of the existing sitting judges will take on veterans court. Like right now, Judge Nelson has a drug court. So what happens is, any cases that get moved onto the drug court get heard by Judge Nelson, but it's on Tuesday evenings. And these drug courts and veteran courts aren't like your typical courts, in the sense that I put someone on probation and then send them out, hopefully you do well. These, you're meeting with those individuals on a weekly basis. How'd you do this week? And you know, it's a treatment thing, so they're gonna falter, they're gonna slip, but there's some sanctions in there, like if they have to, they lock them up for a little bit or whatever, and they're trying to rehabilitate people. A veterans court kind of works the same way. You're gonna have a judge that's assigned to a court saying that they will take on the veterans court, and so what the difference will be is, let's say their case is assigned typically to the 197th, but the veterans court is the 103rd. So the 103rd will take the case from the 197th, and they will have it heard in the 103rd, and it'll be part of the veterans court program. But you don't actually have a court just established that all they do is veterans issues. That's how I understand it.
Well, then why would not be able to do a veterans court with a family court? Why not? Is there any reason that we cannot?
No.
No, it could be the same.
Why wouldn't we want to do that?
Well, again, these family courts, they are inundated with temporary orders hearings. So what you're doing is, in a typical week, if you go down to the courthouse, you'll see that, like in the family court we have now, they have hearings almost all day long every day. To add the, let's say 2 days a week, veterans court hearings on top of that, I mean, you're putting a lot on their plate. So it would be more beneficial to find one of the other courts to be the host for the veterans court, because you're already in the 2 family courts very inundated because of the time consumption of the hearings.
And I could see if this was 100% family court, I could buy into that argument, but it's only half. So the other half would be general jurisdiction court.
Right.
And like I've said before, the reason that nobody wants to do family court all the time, there's no romance in it. And it takes a lot of time. You know, there's no excitement in that. So I would think that if we can do a veterans court, I mean, what are we going to do? How are we going to address the veterans court issue that's also on the agenda that Judge Nelson is putting on? How are we going to address that? We're going to have to assign a court to be the veterans court, right?
I think one of the judges will host the veterans court.
Right.
Well, why can't it be the
Yeah,
357th?
why can't it be the 357th where we do 50% family and the rest of it veterans? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just trying to figure out how we can do it that's efficient, that satisfies the family court issue that the district judges have and the veterans court issue that some of the district judges have as well.
You're going to be putting a lot, like, you're going to overburden that court if you do that.
Well, but the other courts are not going to be excluded from hearing family law cases
Or veterans.
or
No,
veterans.
no,
We're just
but-
focusing on those.
Right, no, but it goes to the same. If you're a court that has, let's say, 300 cases filed in your court a year, 150 of them are family law. For those 150 cases to have temporary orders hearing, it's going to take you a long time.
Well, how are they doing it now? I mean, we're improving the system, I think, by assigning the 357th to be a 51% family court. That's got to help in whatever we have. I mean, family court cases, they're not going to increase.
Right.
They're just going to be done quicker. Maybe the other cases get done quick. I'm just trying to figure out a way to be able to satisfy the family court issue with the veterans court issue. That's it.
Well, the
Makes no
time
difference.
the time you're alleviating in the other courts can free them up some time to do veterans. I just think if you do family and veteran together, whatever court that is going to be inundated with work, and you might have trouble finding someone to run for that position because
The governor appoints, just like he's going to do now.
I think the way the current bill is written, we wouldn't be able to amend that bill, but we can definitely look at other bills that are being created, other district courts, and then go ahead and amend it to where we can establish one if that's what the court wishes to do.
What do you mean that we can't amend this bill?
The caption on the bill says that we are designating 357 as a family law court. Because of the caption of the bill, we're limited in what we can do constitutionally and legally to alter the bill.
Does it also include within that caption the 51%?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so it's within
Yes.
the body of the bill.
Yes.
Can't we change the body of the bill?
Of course.
And the body of the bill would say.
As long as it doesn't.
The court would give the majority preference to family court with the balance being veterans.
Now, we can try it. I'm not saying that we can't try that. We do run an issue of it being germane based on the caption and if we add the words veterans court in there.
Well, I think we need to keep in mind that we're not advocates for these bills. I mean, not that particular bill.
Right.
That was something that was brought to us by the district judges. I think that it would be beneficial for whomever is pushing for these bills, be it Judge Nelson and Judge Leal, to come and ask us really if this will work. Because I'm not going to sit here and advocate, one or the other. I'm trying to find a way that it becomes more efficient.
And I think that's why we went ahead and continued with the filing process, and we filed it, we can continue to discuss it and see how we can tweak it and make it
Right,
make
because
it
at the end of the day, what can happen by the time it gets for signature, it can be vetoed.
It could be.
The way it is.
And my concern is that, here we are, we're taking a 357th district court, and the only reason that is being targeted is because there's not a sitting judge.
That's correct.
That's it. No other reason. Which is unfair to anyone that is entertaining the thoughts of running for it, because it was not a family court from the beginning, and now we're changing the caveat of what it does.
But there's plenty of time, though. That's why making it effective January 1st of 2015 gives anyone the opportunity to want to run, knowing what it is, that opportunity, and not making it effective right now, somebody appointed to it, and then deciding whether they want to run or not. You make it effective January 1st, 2015, there's going to be some good people running for that, regardless whether it's a family court or not. So I think it's important that we try to explore that. So I would suggest that maybe for the next meeting, we have Judge Nelson and or Judge Leal here to explain the reasoning behind the Veterans Court, and if we can do it with this one. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, because I don't know. But if they're saying no, I mean, I want to hear why it doesn't work. If they say they have a lot of work, well, they have a lot of work. I mean, that's the way it should be.
And the way the statute reads, just because it's a family law court, it doesn't mean that you can't hear other cases. So if it's a veterans court, it doesn't mean that you won't be able to fill the rest of your docket with other cases.
The same thing with the other courts. It's not going to preclude them from hearing family court or veterans court.
The only thing The only thing I would mention is that for a veterans court to work, you have to have a judge that is passionate to helping veterans, because if not, it's not going to be successful. In San Antonio, Judge Christian himself is a veteran, and he has a passion for wanting to help veterans, and they do a great job. I mean, I saw it happen. But if we don't have a judge that's going to want to host the veterans court, interested really in helping, then I think it would be counterproductive.
Well, give it a shot.
We'll work on that. I
don't have anything else.
How about the windstorm?
The windstorm bill, Todd Hunters?
I know that I served in a task force that put together fourth legislation.
Right.
That legislation was incorporated into the statewide task force that was created. There's been a filing of some bills in which consensus has been reached by the two different groups.
Yes.
And, I think that we probably should include that.
Right, I think we'll be working on, hopefully in the next week or so, we can visit with Todd Hunter and some of the other folks in the Galveston area as well, and our senator, to see if we can work on something, see where they're at, maybe present you all a resolution that we move forward
Well,
with.
I think that's what we need to do, with the resolution.
Absolutely.
We also have our vehicle registration bill.
Yes, those are some of the bills that I think David's been working on and Pete have been working on.
But they need to be included in our legislative agenda,
Okay.
because I know that we've got some of these other bills that are critically important to transportation needs, to the development of the island, and all these other issues,
Yeah, we filed the legislation on the vehicle registration fee increase from $10 to $20 local option fee. We also, working with some of the other cities, they have filed bills regarding annexation issues. So we're working with Town of Laguna Vista, City of Puerto Isabel, City of Los Fresnos on those issues. Representative Oliveira filed 5 bills for that. We also filed bills regarding the venue tax and the hot tax legislation to allow us to get some funding percentage of the hotel motel tax to use for any venues that we're looking at building in the future. And then we also filed a bill about 6 or 7 months ago. We had an exercise here at UTB with DPS, Customs, and the Maquiladora Association. One of the main issues was that if the Veterans Bridge gets shut down, what overweight corridor are we going to have available to us? And DPS had a concern, and so did U.S. Customs. So we filed a bill to extend the corridor from SH 550 to US 7783 and then to FM 509 to the Los Indios Bridge, which would allow us to have that option available if we need that overweight corridor. That bill has been filed as well.
Would on that particular bill, the same permit would work with both corridors?
That would be the idea, yes.
Okay.
What
So
we
the
wouldn't,
trucker would have the choice which one to take?
right, and we would have it in place in case we need it, if something happened.
Type.
Yeah, we also need to track, because I think Representative Martinez filed one in Hidalgo County for the RMA, but I believe that is for produce. Munoz, I'm sorry. For produce, an overweight corridor. So we need to stay on top of that one because, that in Brownsville, we already have the overweight corridors and any commercial traffic associated with the produce industry in Mexico can utilize the overweight corridor in Brownsville, but not at Los Indios. And Harlingen has a lot of cold storage facilities that can be attractive to the produce industry. And so we would need that overweight corridor from the Free Trade Bridge to those cold storage
509 all the way up.
Exactly.
To the north area.
Exactly.
Mando also introduced another bill.
Yeah,
on the
I'm not
RMA,
sure,
because they even made a mistake on his name. They put Mundo Martinez. I don't know if you noticed that.
Then I believe Representative Phillips filed the bill, and I don't believe, I'm not sure if it was strictly for RMAs, but it would allow us to partner with other counties, for example, on 77.
Right.
And make the delivery of that project a lot quicker. So we'll keep track of that one as well, because that'll help us a lot on 77.
But I think that what we need is resolutions on some of these to come up, like if, David, you can come up with the annexation resolution. I think we passed it 2 years ago. This court did in support of some of the issues that the small cities have in regards to annexation problems that they're encountering. Yeah.
ETJ.
The windstorm issue, I think we need to make sure that we, pass that resolution and get it up there so we can.
What I can also do, Commissioner, is I'll get with David and with people, work on a master list, put it together, break it down by subject, get that all to you, and then we can, now, did you want us to go in and focus on just the bills that we filed on that list, or would you like to see some of the bills that we're monitoring as far as how they can affect us?
Well, if we need a resolution in support or against
Okay.
a certain bill, I think we need to include them.
So we
Okay,
can
we'll
get
do,
those
we'll do
done.
that. Absolutely.
It's not on your list that I could see, but is there any update on the juvenile probation issue and the auditor's issue, since they kind of?
There is an update on the juvenile probation issue. I believe that one's here. Should be item number 3. There was some initial concerns. I believe some individual or some counties had concerns that they utilized TAC to provide their legal services, and there were some concerns that we were forcing them to go another direction. We visited for a while, I think yesterday, right, Bruce? About 20, 30 minutes with a gentleman from Brazos County, the heads of the association there, and he voiced his concerns, and I think we cleared a lot of that up, and at the end he said, what we had there looked like it was a pretty good bill that would definitely benefit the state so forth moving forward. So
That's on the juvenile?
on the juvenile, yes.
Okay, and the last
On
item,
the-
the auditors, where's that going? Martha, do you have anything to add on the auditors thing that you know of?
On number 12, House Bill 3123, I put it out on the county auditor website, the listserv, and the general consensus there among the association is that they are opposed to it. Everything that the county auditor does is for the benefit of the county. We oversee the finances, we make sure that everything is accounted for correctly, and we get paid by the county. The county funds our benefits by statute, and a move to not provide representation in the event that is needed is viewed as an opposition to our office and something that would obstruct the independence of our office the way it is set up by statute. So indications are that the association will oppose that bill.
Pete, either you or someone told me that one of those bills was dead? Anybody say? David or? Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's pretty well.
Oh, that one's
DOA.
Yeah, he's not going to pursue it any further.
Right.
All right. Okay. All right. Anything else? Do I hear a motion to acknowledge?
So moved.
By Commissioner Benavides, do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Sanchez, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed, item carries.
The only thing is that I guess the Senate passed the merger by a 30-to-1 vote yesterday, which is a good sign on the universities. They're Thursday, right? Yeah, the guy that voted against it, he wants more residency slots, okay? Instead of more medical schools, which kind of makes sense in his profession.
On items H, I, J, and K will be discussed after the presentation. Item M, consideration approval of license agreement with Workforce Solutions Cameron to utilize county facilities to park their mobile resource lab and to provide service to county residents. Pete?
Judge, this is a request that we got from Workforce Solutions. They've got a mobile unit that provides different type of services, and they're interested in utilizing the parking lots at some of the county facilities, particularly any facility that we might have in the rural areas. And they pretty much offer any service that they offer at
It's
centers.
job related.
Yes.
Mainly job related.
Any service they offer at the centers.
Move to approve.
Is there
Second.
any liability issues on our part by letting them use our parking lot?
Well, we've got in place insurance requirements to cover that and an indemnification clause.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. On item N, we have a special meeting in 10 minutes to address that one. There was an error in the posting, so I do hear a motion to table it.
Move to table.
By Commissioner Sanchez. Do I have a second? By Commissioner Garza. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, item carries. Item O, consideration and approval of an interlocal agreement between Cameron County and the BISD. Pete?
Judge, Commissioners, we did receive the information needed to complete the interlocal agreement. It does include the buildings. It includes the portable buildings. However, there's a couple of issues that legal and I need to discuss with their attorneys, but this week being spring break, we were not able to communicate with them. But they do have it on their board agenda for the first meeting in April.
So you want to table it?
At this point, I'd like to table it, and then we'll bring it back at our next meeting.
Second.
But we've made a lot of progress, and there's just minor issues that we need to clarify.
If there are minor issues, is it, can we do it pending legal and you?
Yeah, I'd rather just wait and make sure we
Okay.
yeah.
Moved by Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Benavides to table. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item P, consideration authorization to go out for bids to install roof structure covers for existing basketball courts in county parks precincts 1, 3, and 4.
Yes, I put this item on the agenda. We talked about this a while back, but we've never got pricing. It also included my park at Precinct 2, but the park at Precinct 2 is already being done. It was part of last year's budget. And I would like to, is Javier here?
No, he's
no.
at the family.
I would
funeral.
like to at least get the commission to authorize us to go out to get the price to basically do the same type roof structures that we have at Cameron Park for some of our existing parks, one park in each precinct.
Well, let me ask you though, before going out to bids to install, would we want, or do we already have a proposal from an engineer that's going to design them for us? Do we have that yet, or an architect?
Well,
Before
before
we
that,
go
is it
there-
budgeted? We don't have this in the budget, do we?
No.
It's, well, let's hold on. Let me ask the first question first. Before we bid out for the structures, would we want to go out and hire an architect or an engineer to design them first?
Do we need to? We already have one at Cameron Park.
Well-
Would it be the same size, or maybe something a little bit bigger?
I'm assuming that the court would use bond proceeds for these projects. If we do, then there's a process that the court would need to go through because some of these projects were not in the original official statement. It probably can be done, but there's a process that we need to go through with our bond counsel.
And that's what he told us.
Right.
When we met. Okay. So why don't we, Commissioner?
Well, I don't know.
Well, why don't we do this then? Because if we cannot act on this, why don't we ask that we table it? At the next meeting, I guess you bring an item to the agenda to ask bond counsel officially to advise us to how to reappropriate monies from certain issue to this, okay?
Right, yeah, and we've had that discussion because there's other projects.
Right.
Don't we already have all the bond money allocated to projects?
Allocated, yes, but the court has discretion as long as they follow a legal procedure to either add projects, delete projects. The one thing you can do as a court, for example, if we've got project A that we budgeted $1 million for, we've got project B that we budgeted $1 million for. Project A, the bid comes in at $750,000, and project B comes in at $1 million.
1.2.
Right, you
We
can
could-
switch money around because both projects were included in the official statement. That you can do.
But when we issued these bonds, we told the public, this is why we want to issue the bonds for these
Right,
projects.
and that's why if you're going to change that, if you're going to deviate from that, then there is a legal procedure that the court needs to follow. It can be done, but there's a legal procedure that the court needs to follow if that's what the court
Yeah, and
wants
you
to
would
do.
tell the public the same thing.
Right,
that, you
yeah, the
know,
only thing you can do is move money around from the projects that are already identified. That you can do.
Now, I have a problem with this. I have a problem because the last time I checked, I represent Precinct 1. Nobody has come and asked me whether I want my existing basketball courts covered. That money was supposed to be for something else. Now, I think I am the one that should decide what is needed at Precinct 1, especially at the Brownie Road Center or at the Benavides Park. We've overgrown, and we need classrooms there. And I know that Mr. Mendez has been ill, and I've been holding back on this, but I do not appreciate somebody coming in here and putting this on like as if it's a blanket deal. Now, I will respect whatever the court decides to do on this, but for you all to just come in here and decide what you want to do in my precinct, I do not appreciate, because I don't think you would appreciate my doing the same thing to you, Commissioner. So, you know, there's swimming pools in El Ranchito or at the Demansky Park. So the whole idea was that we were going to get a multi-service, a multifunctional addition put at the Brownie Road Center. Yes, it wasn't going to include a gym. But you know what? You all don't seem to want that, and I'll respect that. But how are we going to know whether it's going to be functional or not if we don't even try it? I mean, I don't have a swimming pool in my area, but you have it over there. Shouldn't I have one? Or shouldn't you have one? But I do not decide that for you. So I do not appreciate you doing this.
Let me make a comment clear. From day one, when that bond issue came out, it was a very general, like you asked about generalities, it was generalities. I think to spend $1.5 million for a gymnasium in Precinct 1
But it wasn't only going to be a gymnasium.
Well, a gymnasium is going to cost over $1 million, according to Mr. Mendez.
Well,
and I do not agree that we need one.
Well, according to Mr. Mendez, it was going to be an additional 2 rooms put in there.
The only way for me to move this process forward was to put this on the agenda. I've done it. If you don't agree, I'm sorry, but I don't agree that it should be a gymnasium. I agree it should be some type of cover. And if the majority rules with me, fine. If they rule against me, I'll respect that also. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay,
well,
so
I wasn't consulted on this, so I mean, I do want a gym in my precinct. I would like a swimming pool too. I like a running track. I mean, everything,
Racquetball court?
Yeah.
Racquetball court?
Whatever,
And it's obvious, Commissioner, that we can't all do it at the same time.
But I think that, we should, if we want to discuss moving funding that we already have in place in any way, shape, or form, I think we ought to discuss.
That's correct.
The funding mechanism, where we are in the projects that are ongoing, whether we've had underages or overages. We just approved one project this morning, which is the courthouse extension, or the increase or improvement or whatever, those are projects that are ongoing. I know that preliminarily we looked at a road that is in my precinct. I mean, the funding that we have in place is about half of what we need. The city of Brownsville has not come to the table with the balance of what would be most beneficial for the city of Brownsville, because that's not what they want to invest in. I mean, we're going through that in a number of issues. We're having a couple of other issues on another road that was in my precinct that is funded through those bond proceeds. In that particular case, the original alignment that had been looked at, which was probably the one that was cost justifiable and within budget, is not favored by the folks that own the property there. We're having to look at a different alignment that will probably increase the cost of twice as much for that road. There's a whole lot of
Are we
issues.
talking about Old Alice Road?
We're talking about that's one of them, and the other one is Port Road in Port Isabel. And we've had, it's not delays, but we've needed more time in bringing people on board to agree to things. And
Why don't we do the following? I mean, I have a status report that I can bring to the court and go project by project. We've probably completed maybe a third or a little bit more than a third of the projects. The only road project that's complete as far as county participation, not as far as the project being complete, but funding is Primera Road. and that's a TxDOT project, but, you know, our portion of that has already been paid to TxDOT, but it's...
But the road is not complete yet.
No, not the road, but our funding is. But it's probably a good idea to give the court a status on these projects. There's other projects, for example, Vermilion Road, the expansion, we're waiting on Brownsville PUB, and as the commissioner mentioned, Old Dallas. When we took the design to the city, they said, well, we want sidewalks. Well, that's going to add a couple of $1 million, and we don't have that in our budget. So we might have to look at shifting that money, you know, to another project where we have
Well, Pete, why don't we do this? Let me ask, since Commissioner Hernandez placed this item on, let me ask him to table it, and hopefully we'll table it. And then secondly, for the next meeting, bring back an agenda item in terms of the process. Maybe you'll have the update that you're talking about, and the process that we would need to reappropriate
I move that
some
we do
monies.
not go out for bids to install roof structures.
I'll second.
Right. So, okay, I have a motion, a second, to not go out for bids at this time.
Which is what it says on there.
That's correct. And also, and all in favor, well, let me just continue discussing. And then bring back at the next meeting the process as to how to shift money around if we need to do that.
To add projects, you mean?
Whatever we need to do, if we need to shift projects
To
around.
shift money, we don't need, you know, we can do that, the court can do that if they were already identified. If we're going to add projects, then...
Give us an update on the projects.
Well, but isn't all that money park money?
No. No, the park is relatively
Very
low
small.
compared to the general.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was, okay, all right, let's do that.
Update.
Okay, so I had a motion, a second, to not go out for bids. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item Q, consideration approval of an establishment of Veterans Court. Do we want to, let's table that, because we're going to,
Or I
Well,
guess,
or do you have something, you
Mr. Leffler's here. I think you wanted to,
want to talk about it for a while? You heard the discussion already, right?
yeah,
it's an
Judge,
update.
Okay. Well, let me
Judge.
ask you a question real quick. Yeah, and thank you for being here, and thank you for waiting. If you can take it back to Judge Nelson, if there would be an issue making the 357th a half and half veterans, half family court, because we can do that. I just want to make sure that.
Okay, I can call and discuss that with him.
Well, nothing's going to happen today.
Sure.
Okay, but it's more how we proceed in terms of that particular bill.
Okay.
Okay.
I will call and discuss it with them. And do you know when it will be tabled until?
Probably the next meeting. I mean, we're ongoing talking with our state legislation. So if he says no, then I'd like to hear why it's a no. Because if it's something that I believe he believes it'll work, then I need to know why, and we need to know why he doesn't think it will work that way.
Okay.
Because we're talking about designating that particular court as a family and veterans court. His discussion with me, he just wanted to I guess, to assign or create a veterans court. This kind of does that.
The only thing I can foresee is this individual needs to be passionate about veterans issues and whatnot. That's the way these things work. I've met with Judge Wayne Christian as well. I've met with Judge Mark Carter in Harris County, and both individuals they happen to be veterans themselves, but it needs to be somebody that understands the issues.
Are they appointed or elected?
They're elected judges.
They're elected, so it's really in the hands of the public.
Correct.
Whether they're passionate or not.
I mean, we can't say, a pre-qualification to run for this office is going to be that you're passionate about family law and veterans issues.
Right, but their hands weren't forced into the veterans.
Is Judge Nelson passionate about veterans?
Well, hands wouldn't be for.
He's already got the drug court.
I mean, he could always switch.
But again, though, it's not hands to be forced. It's if this court is going to be designated as veterans and family, whoever would be running for it would understand that that's mostly what he would be dealing with, or she.
Okay.
Correct. All right, just take it back to him, and he can give me a call.
And maybe we could get Judge Christian or Judge Carter to come visit us and maybe give us a little presentation or workshop and their input on, you know, what they would suggest too.
Sure.
I mean, I think they'd be happy to come down.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to table?
So moved.
By Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries.
Shouldn't we just
Do I-
acknowledge instead of table?
Well, he didn't present anything. That's all
We
right.
heard of discussion.
The,
10 o'clock.
yeah, I need to recess this meeting to have our special meeting. Do I hear a motion to recess?
So move.
Moved by Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Hernandez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. This meeting is recessed. Let me open up the special meeting. It's a little after 10 o'clock in the morning to discuss just a few items. Do I hear a motion to open this meeting?
So move.
By Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Any public comment?
We have a new pope.
Item 2A, consideration approval to pay out comp time of 250 hours to court administrator at magistrate court and authorization to create a part-time clerical position.
Move to approve.
Move, okay, just the one thing, the funding source, Marta, for the, you got it? We're taking?
The funding source that the court would have would be lab salaries. Right now, we have designated $69,878. We probably do have more money in lab salaries, but we have not reviewed that for the past month, probably.
The effective slot, the part-time slot will be immediately? I know you need it immediately. You need it yesterday. So just work on that as quickly as you can to get that slot going, get with HR, go through whatever process you need to be going through.
I would need the court to approve designated amount for the part-time clerical.
Why don't you all get whatever the part-time is that's there now, correct? Be the same amount.
Well, but is that enough part-time to not put us in the predicament of having a bunch of comp time later? I mean, let's not, if we're going to fix it, let's fix it right.
I'd have to go back and look at that to make sure. I'm not sure exactly how much is allocated exactly as we speak for the one that we have now, but I'll tell you, if it's essentially doubling the time that we have, obviously, so it would be a huge relief to what we have. Well, whether it completely satisfies the situation or not,
Well, why don't we start there, okay? And we've got a few more months. I mean, you'll be able to figure it out.
By next budget cycle?
By the next budget cycle.
that's fair.
Exactly. Okay, all right.
Because I don't want to get more than what we need. But
Right. I heard a motion
have a
by Commissioner
question, Judge.
Sanchez, second
Second.
by Commissioner Benavides. Discussion.
In the 250 hours, how much money are we talking about? What does that amount
to
to?
pay her out, I think it's about, it's under $4,000.
It's under $4,000, I
I
think.
think it's $3,700.
Okay.
If I could provide some brief information to the court, the overtime, the extra help budget is approved for FY '12 was not as approved, but as used was basically $10,100. For FY '10, they used $9,758. What the court has approved for FY '13 is a budget of $8,320, and they have already used $4,116.
So they got about halfway to go yet, 6 months.
Right, so.
So you're going to set up about 4,500 then, right? For the remaining 6 months for
remaining
part-time?
year.
Okay.
That's what, we'll live with it for now, and we'll address it again in October.
Yeah, whatever those numbers are, that's what they are, okay?
Now, Judge, also anticipate, there's some bills in there to give you more work.
Yes, sir.
And if those bills get passed, then anticipate in next year's budget, when you're doing it, probably a full-time clerk.
Yes, sir.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, assuming they pass, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. I had a motion, a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item B, consideration.
Just one question in that regard.
Yes, sir.
What are we going to do with any other department that comes to us? It is not for you.
Thank
you. Don't. Good. Any other department that has issues with comp time being owed, and says, we have money available in our budgets, we want to pay out comp time in these individuals because we owe comp time.
I think we treat everybody the same.
if the sheriff department comes, that could be a very huge.
Well, I think this is more of an emergency situation in the sense that you had someone that was out, magistrations can't stop, and I don't think there's enough time in the year, even if she took off the rest of the year and we paid that money to someone else to temporarily cover her job. I don't know that we'd be able to do that. I mean, I think we're kind of stuck here, but maybe we need to put safeguards in place, maybe like through the auditor's office or something, where that we get the heads up before this happens.
Well, and that's good, but
The only way that anyone that I know of can accumulate comp time in this county is if their immediate supervisor signs off on it, right? That's
and by
only way.
and by the time the auditor finds out,
It's too late.
it's too late. It's already done. It's like overtime.
Well, but the auditor can tell us once they're at the 20-hour, I think as a county we have like a 20-hour max. Once someone hits the 20 hours, you know, at Commissioner's Court, we could get told, hey, this person's at 30 or...
Get a report.
Right, get some sort of report from payroll telling us, hey, this person is past a certain amount so that it's not something we overlook. Because had we known this at 20 hours over, 30 hours over, well, maybe we say, Pete, do you have extra help somewhere? Now, it makes it difficult in this department because it takes some specialized training to do the work that's there, but by the same token, it might not have gotten to the catastrophic numbers that we're dealing with today.
Can you provide a report on a monthly basis? But then again, we're going to see these numbers, and you're dealing with, most of the time, with an elected official. What is this court going to tell them, really?
The report that we can provide, excuse me, is a report that will give you the comp, vacation, and sick leave hours balances by department. And we can provide that information. Now, as far as the accumulated comp time by employee, that can probably be supplied once a month.
But like once someone gets over
that's after-
25 or 30 hours.
It's after the fact, again.
It's after
Right.
the fact, exactly.
Correct.
Yeah, you don't control it. You
No.
just see it, basically.
We get the information and we compile it.
But I mean, we're at 250 hours, and had we known at 30 hours that, hey, we need to do something quick because their operation doesn't stop, then we might have been able to do something.
We can get that information to
Like
the
a
court.
30-hour or something.
Well, and again, though, on that item that was just approved by the court, are we paying regular time?
It's comp time.
Yeah, but is it like a time and a half?
It has to be.
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
Those figures are already, the 37 is at the
Time and a
rate, time and a half, yes.
We're going to get more information from you regarding this. I just want to ask the court, what is it that we're going to do with the information once we have it? And that's not so much for you, Judge, it's for everybody else. You know, we're going to tell them, hey, you got some people here, I got some comp time. They're going to say, well, if they have time off, then we're going to get behind in other stuff. What is this court going to do?
Well, do we isolate what the problem is and what's causing this comp time?
Obviously, they're either overworked or understaffed. That's it. That's all it can be. Or mismanagement. And if you want to go to the mismanagement, that's fine. I've got no problem with that. But it's being one of those three.
Well,
I just want to know what is it that we're going to do once we get these hours. Okay, we know. Now what?
In this predicament, we had a part-timer that was out because she was sick or something?
Yeah, and this, well, I'm not, yeah, that's what I understand it was, but let's carve this one out because that one, as you said, was a special circumstance. And everyone is going to be a special circumstance.
Right.
So I'm just saying, what is it that we're going to do once we have the
Had this
information?
come to us, we have a part-timer that's out sick.
Right.
We could say, okay, you know what? We're going to reallocate paying that person, getting some temporary help.
But as you said, it takes a special person with a special background to do this job. You're going to pull them from another magistrate or another JP.
Well, we could ask. We could say, hey, one of the judges, could you spare a person to help us at magistration right now? I mean, that's something we could do.
Well,
I know Judge
let's look at
Benny had offered some help. I think.
Yeah, I mean, provide it, and we'll just see where the court goes with it.
Well,
All right.
I mean, I don't think we can be held hostage to the budget Because at the end of the day, you know, we either cheat an individual at work by not paying them,
Right.
or we're over budget with our budgets.
Or under budget.
Or under budget, whatever it might be, but most of the time, you know, we spend more than is budgeted.
Right.
You know, and I think that every department head and every elected official knows what their budget is, or should know what their budget is, and what they can do with that particular budget. If it's not adequate, they need to, you know, come to us. But I don't think that given comp time that encumbers dollars for us, I mean, it's kind of like we don't have a choice at the end of the day.
Right.
Like not paying this individual.
We
don't
have to
a
pay him.
choice, you know, because, you know, I mean, that she worked the hours.
All right, well, let's start doing that, I guess, at the end of April or whenever you have it ready, and then we'll address it at that point. Item B, consideration and approval of a resolution requesting the U.S. section of IBWC and the United States Department of State to pursue through appropriate minute orders or formal agreements whereby Mexico formalizes a compliance program under the treaty.
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Garza. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Do I hear a motion to
So
adjourn this
moved.
special meeting by Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Hernandez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Do I hear a motion to reconvene our regular meeting?
So moved.
By Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item R, discussion and possible action regarding risk management.
Judge, Commissioners, put this item on the agenda to get some direction from the court. The risk management portion of property and casualty insurance was being handled out of the auditor's office by Tom Gosdowski. And of course, we have the employee workman's comp and all that handled out of HR. And so we need to find somebody that can handle this, whether it's in-house at the HR department or whether it's a new position. You know, property and casualty insurance is a rather cumbersome and you know, type of activity that's handled on a day-to-day basis. And so we just want to make sure that
Someone was doing it,
yes,
and has someone been hired to replace him?
I believe so, yes.
Why can't that person do it?
That person is now handling specific auditing functions.
Or expertise in that arena, right?
There was a lot of duties that, in particularly in this fixed asset position, that our office had been handling for the past probably 10 years, a function that would come up that was needed, and it's like, okay, well, we'll let the fixed asset in the auditor's office do it. So there was a lot of duties that were assumed by our office that were not really an auditing function, okay? Tom provided a lot of assistance in the insurance information that he knew he acquired by working with the insurance for many, many years. As far as reviewing policies and working with the agents, and all of that information is something that he acquired through exposure, but it's not a function and should not be a function of the auditor's office per se. And since we were having this transition in our office, our goal at that point was to redefine the position and delineate the duties to where they were more of an auditing function rather than working on RFPs and reviewing and working with insurance agents when they came in and things of that sort. So consequently, we met with David when this transition was ongoing, and we thought we had ironed out, you know, most of the situations as they were coming up. However, like everything else, as you get into the position and you get into other issues that come up, this is a particular function that needs to be looked at.
Well, but I mean, there's a lot of functions I think the auditor's office does that isn't auditing anyway. Well, I mean, what separates this from those others?
The fact that this one in particular, our office, this position assisted in working on getting the RFPs together and getting particular information on on buildings. That is not an auditing function.
What auditing function did Tom do when he was working there?
The auditing function that Tom did in his work was handling the vehicles, monitoring the fuel usage by vehicles, making sure that all of the county drivers that had access to county vehicles were picked up on the insurance, making sure that county buildings were insured by our policies, which those are functions that we will continue to do. Worked with purchasing in monitoring the fixed assets and doing inventories. And when purchasing was set up in a separate department from the auditor's office, then the fixed asset was a function that was transferred to purchasing. So another thing that Tom did was handling the surplus auction. And that is also a function that was originally intended to go to purchasing that Tom continued to do. The auditing function that we will continue to do with the relative to the auction sales is that we will review the proceeds, make sure that they are distributed correctly, and actually prepare the distribution so that each each agency that has auction proceeds that are sold gets distributed correctly.
Gets their share.
I mean,
And I think
he seemed to do a lot, because I got emails from him about
He did a
what
lot.
chair I had in my office or what computer I had. And
He had a lot of
I took a personal little refrigerator and he claimed it for the county, you know. I mean, he'd do all kinds of, I don't know when he went by, but he figured it out, you know.
And I think the pieces that Martha mentioned, like the procurement, we've ironed that out. The contract review, we've ironed that out. I think it's the claims management piece. And Arnold and I have spoken. We think we can probably get somebody within the HR department that might be able to handle that. It's going to require some training. It's going to require maybe additional funds for this person if they have more on their plate. So we just wanted to bring this before you, get some feedback, and then proceed.
Is that the appropriate department for that function? I mean, you're the auditor. Can you give us a little insight into that, Martha?
Normally, it would be something that would be titled under HR, but it would be, it could be under HR. Some counties do have it under HR. Some counties do have a risk valuation department that all they handle is risk valuation, risk assessment. It's just up to what direction Commissioners Court chooses. Now, this particular process here, risk management, can be as detail-oriented and in broad as scope as the court wishes it to be, or it can be as narrow as the court wants to delegate it.
Well, I mean, maybe we need to look at next budget cycle getting a full-time person to handle that in the HR department, and also maybe help with some of the claims that we get that I know legal's been handling a lot of those claims lately to deter on the cost that we pay out, unemployment and different things. So maybe, I mean,
right, and there's several components to risk management. There's the business aspect, the side of it, as far as investments, managing that risk. But then as far as the HR department, we have our workers' compensation programs run through there, unemployment, our health benefits plan runs through HR, safety runs through there as well. So this would just be another component that we go ahead and add in the department. We've done a little bit of restructuring in the department. As a conversation that I had with David, we talked about it, and there is someone in my department that is willing and able. I believe she did it in the past. She's a few years back, she would work on it in the past. She's willing and able to go and take on that responsibility as well.
So is this your recommendation?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
do we have a funding source though?
We're not there yet.
So,
Well, and the reason we brought this up is because we're in the middle of a lot of this stuff going on with RFPs and talking to insurance agents, and so we have not discussed that piece yet, but we can, if that's what we want to do, we can move towards that.
So move to approve you looking into that and going down that direction.
Well, move to approve and transferring that into the HR department and then looking at the
It'll come
possibility
back
of.
to us?
To us?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
At the present time, there'll be no adjustment in compensation for anybody, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
There's a motion, a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Presentations, 4A, presentation of the first quarter revenue report for the Parks and Recreation Department.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. I put a copy of the presentation right there in front of you. Okay, this presentation is for the fiscal year 2013 first quarter. As you can see, the total parks revenue experienced an increase of $77,509.41. That's a 9.72% increase from fiscal year 2012, the first quarter. Isla Blanca Park.
Is this a pretty normal increase, Joe? I mean, in years past, it seems like these months usually were pretty flat.
See, well, as you know, Commissioner, we have we're charging now $1 for the lifeguard reserve,
Right.
Which also, which boosted an increase of $16,336. So that was
boosted.
charged at the last fiscal year.
But that's only a
Yeah, that's
small
only
piece of the big one.
See, and we also we did experience we had a lot of winter Texans that did come down this year. As you know, that the weather's been pretty bad up in the north part of the country, and a lot of them are staying just a little bit more, and until the weather gets better up in their part of the country. For Isla Blanca Park, we experienced an increase of $51,533.24. That's a boost of 7.80%, comparing to last fiscal year, first quarter. Andy Bowie Park, we also experienced an increase of $9,210.13. That's 14.24% increase. Adolph Tomey Jr. County Park also experienced an increase of $6,604.14. That's 13.01% increase. And our public beaches also experienced an increase of $7,931.80. That's a 37.54% increase. That's public beach number 5 and public beach number 6. Our community parks also experienced an increase of $2,150, which, or I think is 14.33%. I think that's what it meant. Or
It's
433.3%.
Which community parks are those?
All of them.
As a total?
Yeah, as a total, yes, sir. That's, we have Cameron Park, La Esperanza Park, and we also have the Santa Maria Community Center.
What do you, can you attribute where most of that increase was? Was it at one certain park or?
I don't have that breakdown, Commissioner, but I could go ahead and forward that breakdown to you and the rest of the commission.
Well, I was just curious because I know we hadn't had a way of collecting or implementation of the Santa Maria Park, and I was just wondering if that's what had spiked this.
See, and normally our park managers, or for Santa Maria, we have a gentleman that oversees the maintenance of all the community parks, and he's the one who usually handles.
Takes care of something.
Takes care of that. But I could go ahead and forward you a breakdown.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Next page, we have the breakdown on expenses. For Laureles Park, we stayed within budget on all our expenses for this quarter. On the community parks as well, we stayed within budget on all our expenses for this quarter. And we have La Paloma Park. We had a small variance there of $21.46 for the month of December, And that's, I think our electricity bill was just a little higher than what it was.
Did that come from the San Benito leagues using the park more, maybe?
Yes, I believe the San Benito leagues have been using the parks more. That park's being more utilized by the leagues. And our Brownie Road Park, we stayed within budget on the expenses. And same with Isla Blanca Park. And Andy Bowie Park as well. And Adolph Tomey Junior County Park as well.
Joe, we have 3 of those wind turbines, whatever you call them. And I understand our energy consultant visited
the parks.
The parks.
Yes, sir.
As soon as you all get his report on how much they've actually helped, I'd like to get a copy of that, please.
Most definitely, Commissioner. I'll go ahead and provide you with a copy of that. Public beaches. Again, we basically stayed within budget. We had a small variance of $27.90. Don't really know what that's from, but more than likely it's probably buying supplies and to get ready for the spring break. And in park administration, we staying within budget as well with the Greens Division. We stayed within budget on our expenses. No, we got a busy quarter coming up. We have our peak season. We already, the spring breakers are in. Beach Access 5 and 6, have been very well used. We already opened up, we started the trash batch program as well. We started the trash batch program this week, so it's been going well.
Move to acknowledge report. Anything else?
That's
okay,
it,
thank you.
I think the only other comment that I want to make is in the Tomei Park, there's a pretty sizable increase, but we approved a budget we approved an item on our consent agenda to allow for our engineering consultants to develop a plan to not only do shoreline stabilization, but to also put an RFP together and an engineering plan for doubling the size of that boat ramp.
Yes, sir, we did. As you know, we received monies from the Coastal Impact Assistance Program, and we received funds to continue the shoreline restoration, to continue Phase 3, but we are in need of another boat ramp up at Tomei Park. That boat ramp is very well used.
And more parking too, right?
And more parking, exactly.
Doubling the size of both.
Yeah. So
and I think that, I have to compliment Joe and Javier because they were able to encourage that particular firm that is going to do the plan to do it within the budget, the existing budget that they already had. So we're getting
good job.
The stabilization, and we're getting also the increased parking and doubling of the boat ramp with the same amount of money.
Courtesy docks, fish cleaning stations to go as
Bathroom
well.
facilities?
And no, the bathroom facilities are not included.
Well, we want them to be.
But they will be included, once we apply for the grant for construction, that could be part of the construction dollars, the design and construction of the bathroom facilities as well.
Parks and Wildlife.
Through Parks and Wildlife. Commissioner Garza, Javier, and I, we went up to Austin not too long ago, and we met with representatives from Texas Parks and Wildlife, and they said they're ready to give us a grant for the construction of a boat ramp up there at Tomei Park. But we just need to get the design and the plans together. This firm was the firm that did the first phase of the shoreline restoration and the second phase. There were also the project managers, and they also obtained the permit through the Army Corps of Engineers. So
we also need to talk to, I think, U.S. Fish and Wildlife about giving us the extra space for parking.
They already did.
Yes,
Not formally, but informally, they've agreed to it.
Okay.
Yes, that's part of the boat ramp.
Do you have to have a mitigation plan or anything?
No, we don't have to have, we met
Awesome.
up there with them, and
Great job.
Commissioner Garza was there as well, and we walked the area, and they told us where they wanted the corridors to be at, and they basically just gave us an aerial, let us know this is where we want the boat ramp to be placed. So it's just about 100 feet from the parking area on the west side, so.
Perfect. Great job, guys.
Well, thank you
Really
very
good.
much.
It's moving forward well.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Garza, for spearheading that in Austin.
It's fun to walk along the Arroyo Colorado anytime.
Yes, and also, Commissioner, just to let you know, we have a representative from Texas Parks and Wildlife that is coming down at the end of the month, and she's going to tour El Ranchito Park and also Tomei Park, so.
Yeah, we invited her down
Yeah.
because they're the folks that gave, at that meeting, the $100,000 for the El Ranchito Park.
For El Ranchito Park.
So we invited her down, and she's gonna come and do the tour of that park to see where it's gonna occur there, and then look at this money so that we can kind of like keep her in the loop of what we're doing.
What
at
we're
the other
doing.
parks.
Awesome.
And I'll contact you so we can go ahead and remind you on that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all-
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to acknowledge?
So moved.
March 26th.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Sanchez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item carries. Item B, presentation update concerning current workers' compensation status plan and objective.
Judge, do you want to go to into executive session to do the interviews for JP?
How long is this presentation going to take?
Well, probably a good while because we've got the presentation and then 4 items related to
After
it.
that.
Let's go to executive session.
We can do that, okay? All right, sorry, Mr. Wethy. Hang loose. No, hang loose means hang someplace else. Thank you. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
So, second.
By Commissioner Benavides and by Commissioner Sanchez, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Go ahead, you can pass them out. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, item carries. Item A and B will not be discussed. We've been asked to table those.
Thank you.
Items C through M, as listed on the agenda, pursuant to Code Sections 551.071, 551.0712, 551.0711A and 2, 551.0711A and B, 551.0711A, 551.74A1.